YouTube fans, Tycondrius there doing another action figure review, and today we are looking at a Star Trek figure. Now, this is one of the Star Trek figures done by Hiya Toys. They announced that they were doing them, I think, last year in 2024 or 23, and this is one that I hadn't actually seen any in person. I basically went to a Comic-Con about a month ago now, and when I was kind of going through the city, I dropped into one of the local comic shops. Well, it's not a local one, it's a fairly big one, the Forbidden Planet, and they had one of these guys. Unfortunately, he was the only one that I saw. Would have liked to pick up more in the line, because I know there is more, but this is the Kelvinverse version, or the J.J. Abrams version of the Star Trek characters, and this is the one for Chekov, Pavel Chekov, played by the late great Anton Yelchin. I hope I pronounced that name, his last name, properly. But so it is done by Hiya Toys. So they have done, just instead of doing the image of the character up in the corner, you just have Chris Pine's Kirk in the corner for all the characters, it seems, I would imagine, because it doesn't have an individual character image, unlike the stuff they did for the G.I. Joe line. It's the exact same style packaging, except with the exception with G.I. Joe, it gives the character the image on the side instead of a kind of generic Cobra character. It gives the individual character on the side, whereas this one is just, as you can see, it is just Kirk, and then the Star Trek logo, name of the character, and then you can see obviously he's been ripped open from his packaging, because I tend to do that first. I generally don't have the patience to wait around to open them while I'm recording. And then we have on the back, you have two images of the character just in different poses, and a kind of a what looks like it's supposed to be the halls of the Enterprise, I would imagine, or some sort of futuristic setting for the images. And then you have a QR code, and then all the legalese stuff for the character. So I'm going to pause this here a second. I'm going to get the character in a little bit of better limelight, and then we'll go from there. So here he is in all his glory. I'm just going to bring the tape measure in so you can see how tall he stands. So he should be 3 3/4 inch, or at least 4 inch. So you can see he is in around the 4 inch mark. So he is 1/18 scale is the scaling that they're advertising him as, and he does seem to fit the bill. He is quite a nicely detailed character. I think the likeness is quite good for Anton. Now, he does have a sculpted on belt, so this waist belt is not a separate piece from what I can tell. It doesn't look like it's removable, or maybe it is. Hang on. Oh, it actually is. It's on him in the packaging, but it is removable. There is a clip on it. It's very hard plastic, so I would be worried about it breaking. But it is technically removable, I think, if you wanted to take it off him. So, but I don't know. Does it feel like it's glued on? It feels like it's glued on in places, so it's hard to tell. He does come with 2 accessories and then 2 alternate hands. So the hands he comes with in the packaging is his kind of more outstretched hand. And did I swap out his punching hand? No, he comes with a punching hand for his left hand, and he comes with a more outstretched hand for the right. And then he comes with 2 grip hands. So he comes with one which is designed for the phaser. So the phaser is on the set to the default of stun, which is the blue icon. It doesn't have the ability to switch to the kill setting, which is the red setting. So on these phasers in the movie, the way you would flip from stun to lethal, or non-lethal to lethal, would be the center piece here would flip around, and the barrel would be red for the lethal and blue for the non-lethal style of shot. He also comes with a communicator, if I can get it out of its pocket. It was a little bit of a pain to get into the pocket. See if I can wedge it out. I might need to get something to poke in there to get it out. No, I think, yeah, I can feel it starting to move. So he does come with the, at first I thought it was a tricorder, and then I realized it's the communicator. See if we can get it into his hand. So it does come with the communicator. Just bear in mind, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny accessory. So if you are going to be doing anything with them, it might be just best to keep it in position. Now, I do have the old Playmates figure that came out around the same time of the film. Let me see if we can get this thing back into his pocket. There we go. So it does fit in the holster, as does the phaser. The phaser is a little bit bulkier than the communicator, but it is there. He is quite articulated. But before we go on to the articulation, I'm just going to go down the path of his other accessory that he comes with, because he does come with a stand. Oop, if I didn't flap him over. He comes with a fairly unique looking stand, which is quite cool. It has the Star Trek logo. It is a almost two-piece stand. You have this kind of centerpiece. Now, I don't know if it's designed to pop out, but it's designed to look like one of the screens, the background screens on the ship. Already have the connector ports in place. You get 2 of these connector ports. They're very, very tight on this one. So let's see if we can pop them off and pop them into place. So if you have any of the previous, here's my big row of them at the moment. If you have any of the previous ones, actually it would have been better to do it that way. So actually would have made sense. You can pop them in place to that. At least in theory you should be able to. Now these are the bases, the ones with the bullets on them are the bases from the G.I. Joe line. The ones with the mud on them is the bases from, or the stands from the Predators line. And I am having a bit of trouble putting this thing together. Let's try with this one. Do it this way. Yeah, that fits better. It's these H clips on this are very, I think what they did, I'm not sure why they did it. It looks like they're painted, because you can see paint flecking coming off when I try to move it. When I try to take it out of here, there's paint flecking. Don't know why they painted it. Yeah, I can see, you can just see it in there, hopefully. You can see the paint is flecked off it. They look like they're kind of a clear plastic. I'm not sure why they didn't just go with a base plastic like these ones and just not paint it, because it makes it tougher to connect them to any of the other bases from the looks of it. There we go. So there is one peg hole for the feet. There is 2 peg holes, I believe, on the figure. Just confirm that. Yeah, there is one on either foot, but there's only 1 peg on the stand for where you want to stand them. So if you wanted them all together, you could do it that way. I'm assuming that the idea is to have them this way, because the Starfleet logo will be in the right position then. But overall, he is a pretty cool figure. So bear with me a second. I'm going to pull back and do some comparisons, and then we'll have a look at articulation. So here he is in all his glory. We're going to have a look at a couple of size comparisons. So we'll start off with other Hiya Toys lines. So here he is with Wolf Predator from the Alien vs Predator Requiem line, or the Predators line that they did. We'll bring in a more, oop, there goes one of these little things. I'll find it in a second. Oh, it's in the front of him. There is the G.I. Joe Major Blood. So you can see his size. We'll bring in some Joy Toy stuff. So here is the Joy Toy 1/18 scale foot soldier. I have one of the World War II. I think these are US paratroopers. I can't remember if it's a US or a British paratrooper. I think it's US paratrooper from their from Joy Toys World War II line. If we can get them to stand. Another TMNT. Let's move this piece off to the side. It's probably going to fall down again. Just need a space. Here is Raph from the Joy Toy Turtles line. I have all 4. I have not reviewed, I don't think I've reviewed any of the Joy Toy Turtle stuff yet. I have all 4 turtles. I recently just got April, and I have Shredder and the Foot Soldier. I am missing Bebop and Rocksteady, which I must rectify that and try and get the other Foot Soldier, or at least maybe 1 or 2 extras. You can get this guy in as well. It's another Joy Toy, or sorry, Hiya Toys figure. It is one of the Xenomorphs. This is the Xenomorph from Alien Covenant. I'm going to try and squeeze him in at the back. He's very lanky and very spindly and tends to flop over. So I have no doubt he will probably face plant and take everyone with him. So I'm going to see if I can stand him up on his tail a bit. Just have him standing. And then for something that's not Joy Toy or Hiya Toys or either or, here is the Fresh Monkey Studio, Fresh Monkey Fiction. What was his name? Frank something or other, I think. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's the guy from the Eagle Force Returns. We have the Batman from the Batman film from Spin Masters. Another Joy Toy figure, which is one of the mechanics. The mech crew set. And then for something slightly different, we have a model kit version of Red Hood from that Chinese, is it E5 I think they were called, the E5 sales or something along those lines, based on the Arkham Knight games. So it's a Red Hood model kit figure in 1/18 scale, which is pretty cool. So all in all, you can see the size comparison all across the board. So he is in scale with a lot of 3 1/4 inch stuff. So if you want to do crossovers and whatnot, you have that option. So we're going to clear things off. I'm going to have a look at his articulation and we'll roll from there. So having a look at this guy's articulation, he's pretty much on par with what you would expect. Now, unlike the G.I. Joe figures which have a bicep swivel, these guys do not. He has single jointed elbow with a swivel. He has rotating in the wrist. There is a ball joint, so depending on which wrist, well, depending which hand you have in, you'll get a little bit of range of movement on it. He does have the arms that go out that much. The way his body is constructed is he has this tunic piece over a articulated body. I'm not sure if you can see it there. It's like a big square or chunk inside the center, so he doesn't have anything in the diaphragm, but he does have waist. You can actually see how it's kind of constructed on a ball joint, but it's up on off the waist there. He does have a waist articulation. His head is on, it's not a ball joint because it's actually, well, it is a ball joint, but it's at the base of the neck. He doesn't have the double jointed neck thing where it has the base of the head and base of the neck. It is just the neck itself. He does have the seating position, so if you have a vehicle of some sort, you should be able to sit him in it. He does have boot swivel. He does have double jointed knees, not quite 90 degree it's over 90 degree bend, but it's not quite 180. He does have rocker ankles, and again, those aforementioned peg holes in the feet. So if you have a vehicle, which I do have something off the hand, it's not very futuristic or Star Trekky, but if you have a vehicle, you should, in theory, be able to fit into it reasonably well. So you can have them driving around in a vehicle. I know this is the Jurassic Park line is 3 1/4, so there is a slight scale issue with those, but for most part, if you have some sort of futuristic vehicle, he should fit no bother into those. So overall, he is a really cool figure. I do like that head sculpt. It is quite a good likeness to the actor. So I am excited to see some of the other ones. I do want to get the Bones figure. Well, I want to get most of them. The Pike figure as well looks pretty good. So they have a Captain Pike. They have, I think the only figure I don't remember them mentioning or having done yet is Aurora. And I'm not sure how they're going to tackle the female figures. All the figures I think they've released or have come up with so far is the male figures, or the male characters. That I don't think they've released any female characters yet. But just for the heck of it, I'll give him the Holy Grail off Dr. Jones, for so you can hold that for a little bit, because it is there. Overall, he is a really cool figure. I do like the line. I'm hoping I can pick up some of the rest of the figures in the line. They've been kind of sparse on getting released over here. As I said, it was the first time I've actually seen any of them in person at retail, or so to speak, well, specialty comic shops. I guess that's what you would class the the specialty comic shop is what I would class Forbidden Planet as. But overall, he's a pretty cool figure, and I do recommend picking him up if you're a fan of Star Trek. I know they just announced that they are well, when they announced the 118 scale, they also announced that they were doing 112 scale figures as well. So if you prefer that scale, it's pretty much just an upscale version of this figure with, I think, a bit more articulation on it. So if you're a fan of like more 112 scale, you could go for that. But I do like this one, and if memory serves, they have also just announced that they are planning, I'm not sure if they're released yet, but they will be doing a 118 scale and 112 scale versions of the Stranger Things characters as well. So he's, all in all, he's a really cool figure. I do recommend picking him up if you want to get him. I will throw a link in the description to the Big Bad Toy Store listing for them. I haven't seen them listed anywhere else. It might be on Amazon as well, so just keep an eye there. But overall, I do like this figure, and he's a pretty cool character. If I do get the other ones, I do have some of the original Playmates figures that I can do the comparisons for. I do know I have the Spock from that Playmates line, and I do have, I think it's Pike or Kirk. I can't remember which. They looked very similar. The head sculpts on those figures were not the best. I do know I have Chekov, but the weird thing about the Chekov from the original toy line for this movie is, instead of him being the ensign uniform, he was in a cadet uniform. There was an ensign figure planned, and I don't know if it got released anywhere, because it was like I think it was part of the wave that got cancelled before it was released, because people were a bit miffed over that, because there was a whole thing with a build bridge set, and some of the wave 2 figures that were cancelled were going to have the rest of the pieces for that wave that build a bridge, and they got cancelled. So I don't know if they got I know they got mass cancelled. They might have gotten released in certain countries later on. Sometimes they do that. If they've done a production run of stuff, it might get released in a limited market in another country. So it is possible that they got released somewhere in the world, but just not over here or in the US, as far as I'm aware. So there you go, guys. I'm going to wrap this up here, and hope you enjoyed this video for Chekov. And as always, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, guys.